he put a tracker in my car.
Without you knowing?
Of course.
What?
Yeah. And I realized because it showed on my phone. He didn't know it would.
I can recall in one particular relationship being told, Truth, this is not good. This is not good. And me thinking to myself, I know better.
And you never said anything when you knew my sanity was in question, my physical safety was compromised, or what could have been at least. You knew and no one said anything. Why are people scared of saying something?
I think humans just, at some point need to accept that this is not serving me anymore. Mm-hmm. And that is when growth happens.
That's right.
Infidelity takes many forms. Mm-hmm. And today, with social media, with being online, with messaging people, it's a lot easier to cheat on someone.
Welcome to the She Word, conversations that women rarely have but really should. Please do like, subscribe, follow or share the She Word. We've got some hot shows coming up over the next few months and I can promise you do not want to miss out. Breakups are, I think, one of the most unspoken topics that we've sat down to discuss. Unless you stay with the very first person you meet, everyone is impacted by breakups. They're an inevitable part of life. But more often than not, they aren't pretty. They can be painful and brutal. And I believe this is why we don't talk about them, because it isn't easy to chat about what can be ugly. Breakups happen for a number of reasons. At best, two people decide that they're no longer heading in the same direction and amicably decide to part ways. But more often, breakups involve unmet expectations, money troubles, family or friends' opinions and input, or even betrayal and abuse. The fallout from family and financial dynamics and adjusting to a new life can be far-reaching, way beyond the obvious. Whatever the reason, breakups are an isolating grief. What you hoped for has gone. The future you were building is no longer there. But there is life after breakups, and everyone on this show is evidence of that. Building back up after a breakup might not be easy. There might be tears, soul-searching, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, hopefully, healing, acceptance, and moving forward. And here to share their wisdom and experiences are three incredible women. Claudia is a singer, songwriter, and performer. She is also a Gestalt psychotherapist and training to be a children and adolescents integrative psychotherapist. Did I get that right? We'll find out in a second. And has been a learning support educator, but you're involved in education. Claudia is also a popular television presenter and a familiar face to most of us because not only are you on television, but also through your socials as well. So fantastic to have you here. Martine has been Miss World and shares her life through her social media presence as well. She also has a master's in teaching and learning and also a master's in Gestalt psychotherapy and is now teaching English. Maria Azzopardi has flown all the way across the pond to be with us because you are from Queens in New York, Maltese by birth, but also grew up in the UK. You're also an educator. I know, what's the chances of this happening? But also a parent as well. So I'm excited to have you at the table and has quite an extraordinary story. Can I kick off by saying, ladies, welcome. Welcome to this show.
Thank you.
Have I missed anything out about any of you? And I'm going to ask you guys just to give me a little bit of a background as to why you're in this conversation. Who's going to jump in first?
In your introduction, you mentioned that this is a topic that is not spoken very often about. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to, start the conversation, perhaps.
Absolutely. And it's not easy to talk about.
No.
I think we like to talk about good things. And if you look at social media, we like to portray good stuff.
Yes.
But then when we are together in an intimate space, we do talk about these things very much. So to put it out there is, I think, I feel good about being here today.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, I'm really glad that we're doing this. Did I miss anything? I'm going to stick with you for a second there. Did I miss anything out about you?
Me and Martine graduated together.
How cool
I
is
know.
that? Oh, wow.
In fact, when I got to know that Martine would be here, I was like, awesome.
Well, can you tell me what is a Gestalt psychotherapist?
So this is a humanistic train of thought. It's a humanistic school of thought, which focuses on the here and now, on awareness. Martine, you want to go on?
Yeah, explain to me.
Basically, what we do in Gestalt is we try to look at the person as a whole, but we pick on different parts. So every single part of you, literally, so every part of your experience, every part of your life, every part of your body, your mind, everything culminates in this one whole, and you cannot understand the whole without understanding every single part of the person.
Interesting.
So it's the environment, it's the people around you.
So we don't focus on the why, we focus on the how. How are you feeling? And then the how, I'm giving an example with feelings, for example, but then that how will explain why. But I don't ask you to rationalize because that gets you nowhere.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You have to focus on your experience. How are you thinking this? How are you feeling about this? What is happening in your body? How are you physically feeling? So,
see, this is really interesting because and we're sort of diverting for a moment, but I've really only learned so much about us as whole beings through the she word. I didn't know, for instance, that if you go through a traumatic experience, we hold
carry it.
on to it physically.
Yes.
there's a book about
breakups.
this.
Of course. And so it's funny you say that because I felt when my ex decided he didn't want to be married anymore, it was like PTSD. He dropped an atom bomb in my lap, and I felt like I was post-traumatic stress disorder. So the trauma was in my body, and I was having panic attacks. And if you know me before, I'm very type A. I'm very controlling. I have it together. I didn't know what was happening. It was just the trauma, but not only of the divorce, but also of my life.
Of course.
The same thing, holding all of that trauma in your body. Because I've been to therapy my whole life, but it's always been from here up. But it's really not from here up. It's really from here down. And this is the brain that holds all of it. Yes, our heart and our brain, but the gut is so telling.
Yeah.
So,
and in fact, earlier in this series, we were talking about trauma, we were talking about sexual abuse, and we're talking about assault. And one of the guests there explained that she got very, very sick after a trauma assault experience. She got physically sick because her body was reacting physically. I'm so glad we kind of set this, because you mentioned, of course, breakups are traumatic. Breakups are hugely traumatic.
In fact, we do, as Gestalt therapists as well, we do use somatic experiences and because it's important, because sometimes we ignore what we're feeling physically. And there could be many signs that they are linked. Whatever is happening here, it's linked to the body.
I feel like I have the perfect three people sitting down with me to talk about this topic.
the interesting thing too is the word dis-ease, right? Disease, when you say it's dis-ease, it's your body is not in ease.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. So
How am I today old without knowing that?
I just learned, so again, from all of the trauma that I had from, these are the things that I'm learning. And it makes sense, right? Our body's imbalanced and we're holding trauma and we're not getting rid of it. The somatic is just fantastic, like all the different exercises you can do
And the breath work as well.
Oh my God,
that I haven't really experimented with. But I read about it, and I'm still getting there.
The 3-6-9, where you hold it for 6 and you exhale for 9. I do it every morning.
I feel like we have a whole different show here. So we're going to film this one, we're going to do this, and then we'll go on to another show as well.
Look, I just hit it. But to be honest with you, I learned this because of
Yes.
of the divorce, of the breakup. So it is perfect in the sense, in the sense of what did you learn? I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but these are all the things that I've learned about myself that I had no idea. Like you said, you've learning. I mean, I'm going to be 60 years old. I mean, it's like, how did I not know this for like 57 years?
I'm just going to say you look amazing.
Thank you.
Yes,
You look
I
absolutely
concur.
Thank you so
fantastic.
much. Thank you.
I'm going to stick with you for a second because I do just want to set the scene. I'm going to just lay my cards on the table. I am married. I met my now husband at 45, but I have had two very horrific relationships and very, very painful breakups. And one breakup that I had to kind of instigate myself, which can be equally as painful because that person wasn't present in the relationship. And so that's where I'm at. I'm really grateful that I have gone through the process and I'm now in a relationship, but it takes hard work. And what I had to relearn is part of why we're sitting here to having this conversation. Can I be a little bit impertinent and just ask you what you're happy to share about your breakup in the context of you're divorced? Okay.
So, like I said, I have 3 great kids. I was married twice. So my first husband, 2 boys. I did leave him, but it was also very traumatic. It was not something that, I didn't come away unscathed from.
Right.
So we broke up, and then I met my ex-husband at 40. And, we were together for 17 years. And like I told you, we had, tried to have a baby, went through IVF, and then ended up getting my daughter through adoption. All my children are adopted as well. And then when she was 3, he decided he didn't want to be married anymore.
Wow.
So at 56 years old, I thought he was the one. He treated me very well in the beginning, but his feelings changed, and that was really hard because there was no. It was really out of the blue. I came here with Sophia for the first time. And when I got back, he served me with papers.
So first of all, I just want to say thank you for sharing. And we're going to dive into the experiences, and I really appreciate. But already I'm thinking to myself, I have a ton of questions that relate to that. And here's the cool thing about this show is I think so many women are going to relate.
Yes.
And men.
Yes.
Because let's face it.
So also just to piggyback off what everybody was saying about, why we wanted to be here. I'm at a point, it's 3.5 years later now, right? Where I can share my experience, hopefully to help somebody. Because that's really, being of service, I think, is also a way to help you heal.
Absolutely.
Amen.
So
100%.
as well it was you, because I love all the work you do, and I just it's such a great platform. So I hope that somebody can know that even if it's happening to you and it's in the beginning, you're going to be okay. And
because as we said at the very beginning, it affects so many people. I mean,
Yes.
literally, I know now one person who stayed with the person that they first met, right?
You know one, I don't know.
I don't know any. But can I ask you guys just to share what you're comfortable with about your situations?
Can I say something before? Because
Yeah.
the fact that you're here, because what you've learned, the fact that you're here is already something huge. To be able to talk about it is beautiful.
Absolutely. 100%.
About myself, I've had my share of breakups. But I think one of them has really tested me, tested Claudia in all sense. Everything I knew, everything I thought I knew actually, about myself, about my train of thought, about my body, about my traumas, the good sides and the good parts of me, the bad ones, patterns. Patterns.
And you're smiling because we had that very conversation before we sat down about the patterns. And so I'm going to, because I know that we're going to dive more into this. So just to sort of set the scene, I mean, what can you share with us?
So, like Claudia said, I've had my fair share of breakups, but I had two breakups which were, shall I say, strange,
Okay.
borderline abusive, if not
Right.
outright abusive.
Okay.
And after my last breakup, I met up with two very good friends of mine, and we were starting, we were talking about all of this because I know them coincidentally from one of my relationships. And I realized what we were saying was there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame for being with this type of person or for letting someone treat you in this way or, because people are talking about it and people are telling me that he used to do this. And I realized, why are we feeling ashamed of how people treated us? They should be ashamed, you know?
It's really interesting that you said that, because I think to myself, when I came out of my really awful relationships, I came out thinking to myself, am I going to let myself be now permanently skeptical, permanently suspicious? Am I going to let them change me so that I always think the bad of someone? I would just rather be that person who is positive. But that's where the shame comes from, right? You're wondering, how did this happen to me? Which comes back to something that Maria said a moment ago, and I want to kick off with this, is that we are all born with a gut instinct. We all, as human beings, you mentioned the gut, and I think that we call this the second brain, right? For a number of reasons. But when you know something's wrong, when you walk into a room, isn't it, you feel it here, you feel it in your torso, you feel that something's wrong. But through circumstances, we can learn to override that. I know, speaking very honestly, I learned to override that in childhood. I learned to override my gut instinct because I was being told, I love you, but the actions towards me were not loving. And so I managed to walk that. But looking back now, oh my word, when I walked down the aisle, when I was 24 years old, I knew. And so I guess my first question to you is, because you really interested me there for a second, Marie. You said you had no idea.
I had no idea he was going to ask me for the divorce.
Oh, okay.
But I there were many red flags,
Right.
many red flags that I chose to ignore because, now I understand, my patterning is people pleasing. Oh, I'll do this for you so you love me, right? And the shame is, how dare I want to be loved? How dare I ask for that?
Wow.
For me, anyway, that's where that comes from for me, right?
Wow.
Because if I love you enough, well, what do you mean you don't love me enough? What do you mean you're giving me divorce papers? What do you mean we have a child together now? What do you mean I'm 56 years old?
Wow.
So it also comes back to self-shaming ourselves. But I also didn't have the correct information. I didn't know he was that unhappy. So, this is decisions that were made with, wasn't truthful. The information wasn't truthful.
Wow. Wow.
That's for me anyway. That's not everybody's truth, but that's my patterning. I wanted to fix him. I wanted to, because if I fix him, then I don't have to look at myself.
Because I'm laughing, and I'm not laughing at you, but you're talking to three other women who are sitting here nodding.
Yes.
Because I identify that if I can, you don't want to. Isn't it true that we stay in relationships much longer than we should do? The expiry date is long past. At least I know that for myself. In some of them, it should have even gotten past the
That's
first
right.
couple of weeks, right? But
That's right.
But the expiry date has passed, and your gut is saying, well, you tell me.
Yeah, I was thinking, because you mentioned childhood and what you were carrying through your then adulthood from childhood.
Yeah.
And the patterning and all of that. And we are made of habits as well. So what we are familiar with. So things like shame, abandonment issues, bargaining to love me, and yes, unfortunately, these things that I'll speak for myself at least, things that I've been through in my childhood. And I've been to therapy since I'm 38, and I went to therapy the first time I was 12. And still, you know, I made myself through a lot of shit until now I'm here and talking, and I'm still learning all the time. But I think as well that sometimes, because if you had to ask me, Claudia, regret, like what would you change? What would you? I don't know, because it took me those experiences to be where I am today. And even though they were painful, and even though they were, I know it might sound cliche, I know, but it's the truth. I mean, I am who I am today. I am able to sit here. I have been able to do so many things, to study, to be able to go on stage, whatever, because I had to relearn a lot of things.
I'm going to be devil's advocate for a second, because I say this on the show quite frequently. I don't think we should ever dress a turd up as a Christmas pudding just by putting holly on it. And the reason I say that is that we should call shit a shit. If it's a shit, it's a shit. And granted, we can come out of the other side. You know what I'm saying. You're laughing at me, Martina, but you know what I'm saying is that I think that we have a tendency to say, I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I hadn't gone through what I went through. Well, granted, but you don't know that you wouldn't have. That you don't know that.
But this is what I know.
That. Yes,
I have to accept it.
But what I'm saying is that we're here talking about breakups, and we've all obviously experienced trauma. Call it a shit. It is a shit. And we're allowed to say shit on the show. But it is. You can't put holly on it and say that it's a Christmas pudding, because it's not. If you go through it, I'm very mindful, and I'm being a devil's advocate for a second, of not dressing something up as being this life-enriching experience, when actually, you know what, we're survivors.
Yes.
The four of us sitting at this table, we're survivors.
Yes, definitely.
I remember once I was with my therapist, and we were having a session, and she told me, and I was explaining to her, like, you know, I work better and I perform better, and I do a lot of things because people doubt me. And I told her, you know, it really peaks my performance. And she was looking at me like this. And I told her, why that face? And she started laughing, and she told me, yeah, you know, you did all of these things when people were doubting you, and when people were being negative and telling you won't succeed. What would have happened if they told you that you will, and you actually had people pushing you? And I stared at her, and I told her, I don't know. She told me, probably you would have done more.
Wow.
Because imagine being able to, you know, trudge through all of that and still come out the person I am now. Imagine if I hadn't gone through all of that, and I had some people, or more people, because I had people, obviously, like my mother, my family, actually pushing you and telling you, you can do more, you're doing great, and now you're going to do more.
Take care and enjoy the luxury of radiant skin. Browns, empowering wellness through a selection of premium skincare brands.
Għaluli li ftit ħin fix-xemx investiment għal saħħtek. Skoprejt li x-xemx investiment għal but. Il-Bank of Valletta hija regolata mill-MFSA u liċenzjata biex offri kummerċ bankarju f'termini tal-att bankarju.
But exactly that, and just that, even that wisdom, and the wisdom that you just shared a moment ago, it comes back to what Maria said right at the very beginning, is that we're here because we're sharing what we've learned. We're sharing the wisdoms that we have gained. even through our worst experiences, even through our most awful pain, because we know that I'm guessing, like me, you'd really hope that something you could say could just prevent someone else from going through that experience, right?
Well, if not preventing, at least knowing that you're not alone.
Being seen.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's very lonely. It's a very lonely process.
Okay, why is it lonely? Because we started off, I said that breakups are lonely, isolating, ugly things.
So for me, it was lonely for a few reasons. I think you do need to go through it, by yourself as much as possible. But also, with the divorce, I lost a lot of friends and family, and it makes you reassess, because you want to be seen, you want to be heard. Somebody help me.
Yeah.
But people have, their own things in their lives, and they can only meet you where they are because they have their, so sometimes people can't be that friend or that family member. It's just too painful for them.
And I think also there are casualties in breakups.
Oh, no, very much.
There's the bystanders. I know when I broke up with my husband, I lost every single friend I had. And he had done abhorrent and horrific things. But the narrative that he sold, what he told them, meant that I didn't have anyone except for my parents. Literally no one. And that I had to start again. And as you were saying that, and I can hear it, the emotion in your voice, I know that. I know he sold a story to my friends so that when we were all at a wedding at one occasion, they all turned their backs on me and made a point of making me see their backs. And I was going through the worst experience. I was going through everything. There are casualties in breakups, right?
In fact, I was going to say it depends as well on the type of relationship that you had. So if you're coming out of an all-consuming relationship and you didn't have time for anyone else, for example, once you're single, once that person that took up all of your time isn't there anymore, you have no one. You have literally no one. So then you have to start rebuilding, because then there's also shame because, for how long this relationship lasted, I didn't give attention to these people. So now I can't go back to them because what do you mean? You didn't speak to me for 2 years, 3 years, whatever, or we barely met up. Maybe we met up once or twice and now you want to be my friend again, So then it's like, okay, I'm not going back to you. I'm ashamed to come speak to you because now I'm single, because I don't want it to seem like I'm using you.
But in hindsight, looking back and looking at your gut, would you say that situation manipulated you to be isolated? Were you manipulated?
For sure.
Yes.
Yes. And you will start realizing, but it's so much easier to rationalize the situation and say, no, but you know what, because we're working or because of this and, I can't do anything about it. And it's not because he wants to, or it's just the situation, it is what it is, It's easier to rationalize than to accept that your gut is telling you another thing and that maybe that thing is not so nice to deal with.
And your gut was telling you that? Could you hear? Because I asked.
Yes.
I asked Maria, and
Yes.
you could hear your gut.
Yes, you can always hear your gut. Your gut is there. It's the second brain for a reason, because we're not just us. So I'm not just Martine. I didn't fall out of the sky. I came from generations of people learning things, going through their own experiences. And physiologically, biologically, these experiences, like we were saying, they are imprinted. We have like a blueprint. They're imprinted in our body. So for example, once we were studying, if you get a baby, let's say a British baby and a Maltese baby, both 6 months, for example, and you put them in the sea, in water, the Maltese baby, because we live on an island and we've been generation after generation swimming, knows what to do in the water. While a British baby probably will sink because the first instinct will not kick in. And this is the same exact thing. So our gut is generations upon generations of people going through their experiences, learning from them, imprinting in their body, and then passing it through the to the next generation. So we have to trust our gut, because our brain lies to us. We cannot trust our brain.
But we just said earlier on, and it certainly was the case for me, is that my upbringing, certain situations, meant that I overrode my gut.
Yes.
I didn't get in touch with my gut until I was 45 years old. Can you agree that you at some point lost contact with your gut?
There's
I
a
think-
disconnect.
Yes.
But I also think that us as humans, not just this connection, but sometimes we need to be ready to face certain things.
It's difficult, because sometimes your gut knows one thing, but then your brain or your mind or your emotions, call it what you will, is not ready to actually face them. So you rationalize, you compartmentalize certain things, you push them aside, you rationalize your way through it. And then suddenly it all hits you and you're like, I can't stay in this. That's not making sense.
And even from experience to experience, not just through one relationship, for instance. Sometimes I think that because we mentioned patterns before, and the patterns and what we are used to and what we've learned, so the habits that we have, I think humans just, at some point need to accept that this is not serving me anymore. And that is when growth happens.
That's right.
And until then, I know.
But it's a learning process. But also to talk about generational trauma.
Yeah.
So with all the good, right, that we get from our parents, our grandparents, and great parents, remember, I mean, when I think about my parents and what they endured, right, and then my grandparents, you hear the stories of the trauma, that comes down to us, and it is imprinted in us. So we also carry that. Like I know I carry that from my nunnas, and the hard life that they had. And with the good, there is also the not good. And those are the patterns that we learn.
But again, coming back to this idea of patterns, absolutely. I think I can look back at myself and say, from childhood, I just wanted to, I wanted to get it right. I wanted to get it right. And I had a very warped sense of what love is and what love tolerates and what love really should allow and shouldn't allow. And I think that's something that we also learn and is passed down generation to generation and is hugely problematic. But does that relate? Can you think of patterns? I know that I would not listen to my gut, stay way beyond the expiration date because I wanted to fix it. If I can fix this, if I can just be a bit better, if I can just stay a bit longer, if I can get this right, I can fix everything that happened before. And that's me being really, really honest. Does that make sense?
I think we learn mechanisms that save us in a particular situation. I mean, as a child, my parents, we had a traumatic separation. My parents and us as kids. It was a disaster completely. And what I've learned was that being the middle child, because that is another thing, but if we would have another triple.
You're a middle child?
Yes.
Oh, you and me both.
It is like, so I was the middle child. My sister was still very young. My brother already had fixed ideas, So I was the child. I needed love from my mom, but then I didn't want to disappoint my dad, and vice versa. So everything I did was, you said people pleasing before. So, pattern, Mala, people pleasing. The good child, try to make mom happy, try to make dad happy. You cannot make everyone happy.
No.
So what happens then? You disappoint, shame, blaming. Then, in my case, rebellion. And or overstaying. Because I will get it right at some point. I need you to see that I'm good. and I want to make you happy because I cannot, and fixing and saving and, Joan of Arc. And that is something that I, for myself, started to realize now, that I also did with friends, with boyfriends.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in because you said friends, and I think this is something we also don't talk about. Break up with friendships,
Yes.
and we have had discussions about this on the shows because it's not just about romantic. When you break up, you intimated, Martine, before you mentioned this. When you break up in a romantic relationship, there is casualties and fallouts, and there are friends that go bye-bye. You mentioned as well, Maria, that you lost family and friends because of this breakup. We don't talk about that, right? We don't talk about that fallout. We don't talk about the casualties along the way.
But I believe, because whilst you were talking before, I wouldn't even call these people friends. Because why would they leave me alone in my worst? Why? Because, let's say, if I saw someone, maybe I speak like this because I've experienced it myself on the other side, but if I see someone in the mud, why a friend, whatever, if I didn't see them for years, so what? I mean, why wouldn't I want to be in the mud with you? I cannot save you, and I don't want to save you.
But you just said because you've seen it.
But why do we have to see it?
Why do we have to see it, Martine?
I think it's very different person to person. It's not something, I don't think it's something universal, but when you experience something, you know it for sure. This is my experience. So, for example, I remember something really silly, but when I was growing up and I wanted to get my first job, and I said, you know what, the easiest thing to do is for me to go work as a waitress, which I never did because I'm very clumsy and it wouldn't have worked out. But I remember my father was telling me, no, because I worked as a waiter, it's so difficult and it's hot and, it's very taxing and your back will hurt and all of this. And I told him, you know what, I don't care because that was your experience. Maybe I would enjoy it. I need to go through it. Even if I do it for a week and I hate it, I need to go through it to know. Because otherwise it will be, what if? It will be just another thing I wanted to do and I didn't do because I was trying to listen to my parents. I was trying to be the good girl. I was trying to, And this applies, I think, to everything, at least in my case. When you... For example, it's easy if my friends were speaking to me about their relationships or their exes, and I used to tell them, why are you still stuck in this relationship? Like everything you're saying, this is not serving you anymore. This is not your way forward. This can never work. You just said it. And they tell you, but you know what? You can't understand because you haven't been through it. And they were right. Because then I found myself in the same exact situation or very similar. And I think back to what I told them and I feel ashamed. I'm a therapist. I should know these things. I said these things to my friends 2 years ago and I'm in this situation. But then once you're in it, you know for sure. So that's why people have to go through it, unfortunately, because every experience is different.
Does that mean that we as friends, as family, as the she word, having this show, does that mean that we can't guide people with regards to their relationships? Because I hear exactly what you're saying. I know, and I guess my question to you is, did people tell you in your relationships, in any of your relationships? I know people told me. I can recall in one particular relationship being told, Trudes, this is not good. This is not good. And me thinking to myself, I know better. And now I look back and I'm thinking, holy mackerel.
I know better.
Yes, I said to myself, I know better. They don't know him the way I know him.
Yes.
They can't see the good in him that I can see. They don't. I knew I was waiting. I mean, we're talking about breakups, not necessarily about the relationships, because we've had these conversations on the she word many times where you stay in an abusive relationship because you're hooked on that good moment.
That's right.
You're addicted
Hot and
to the good
cold.
moment.
Yeah.
Because, and I remember Sephora, amazing. She sat here, she talked about when she was beaten by her ex-partner and beaten in the head and given stitches while she was asleep. But she was hooked and addicted to the makeup moment because that's what you're given a drip feed, right? But did you have people tell you?
I had people tell me, but like you're saying, for example, then it would be, but you know what, they don't know him, or they don't know, this is just one instance, this doesn't happen very often, for example. What I am very upset about, actually, and we discussed this before the show, is that after the breakup, and I was discussing with my friends what happened and everything, people are telling me, you know, I heard something. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you heard something? I heard that this happened with someone else, for example, or I heard that he said this to his ex, or... And the amount of people, close friends, acquaintances, people I worked with, people who know him very well, or people who worked with him, literally people from all walks of life came up to me and told me, yeah, I heard something. What do you mean? What do you? I thought you were someone who cared about me. What do you mean? You heard something. You heard many different things, and this applied to all of my breakups, and you never said anything when you knew my sanity was in question, my physical safety was compromised, or what could have been at least. You knew and no one said anything. Why are people scared of saying something? Because I didn't want you to think that I'm trying to break you up. It doesn't matter. But at least, because one of my friends told me, if someone came up to you and told you, listen, he did this in his previous relationship, would you have left him? And I told her, you know what? I would have given him the benefit of the doubt, because you are blinded by what the person is showing you. And unless you have proof of him being different or of anything other than what you're seeing happened, you would stay because you would believe that person. But at least if 5 different people or 50 different people had told me, listen, be careful because this, and this, or because I heard this, whatever it was, I would have kept it in mind. So I would have known certain things, certain patterns. Okay, so this is not making sense. This is a red flag.
sows the
This is
seed.
not an isolated incident,
Exactly.
for example. And I would have left earlier.
Can I tell? I want to just, before you guys jump in here, because I just said sowed the seed, and Maria's like, yeah, girlfriend, I'm with you on that. But I want to answer that. I just want to tell you a personal story. My oldest friend, I'm sure she won't mind. I've said this before. My oldest friend I've known for as long as I've been on this planet. Her mum and my mum were best friends, and we grew up we were born at the same time, 2 months apart, and a number of years ago, maybe 20 years ago, must have been more than that, 25 years ago, somebody who's working for her fiance at the time came up to me and said, her fiance is cheating on her. You have to tell her. And I said, you tell her? No, you're her best friend. I told her. I lost her for 8 years. In that time, she married him. She had 2 children with him. And then one day she goes to the doctor and he tells her, you've got an STD. And the only place it could have come from was from him. And we hadn't spoken for 8 years. And she writes me, I'm going to cry. She writes me a message and she says, will you ever forgive me? And I said, in a flash, because I knew that I did the right thing. And I knew that even if it didn't change the path then, that was what that seed, right?
That's right.
That seed. Did you have that? Did you have people say?
You know, I don't know if it was because, I was older when I married him. I was, already, we were together 17 years. So after, I lost a lot of my friends in this respect that I stopped calling them. And we were in a bubble. And maybe I did that because I didn't want people to see almost too. So I didn't really have people telling me before, but after, yes. And I was upset too, because it was like, oh, I was, I wondered how you were going to handle that, or or how, and like, I'm like, oh, okay,
Like an experiment.
yes, and like, but again, I know for me, we were in a very small bubble. It was really just me and him, and then my two sons were there also, but they were older, and then we had my daughter, and so, but I almost feel like I probably did that so I wouldn't let people in, and then I wouldn't have people judging. I don't know.
But that have you ever had someone say to you, "I never thought it would last. I never thought it would work." I didn't. I had someone say that to me after my marriage. It was a family member came to me and said, "No, we didn't think this one would last." And I'm like, "I'm sorry. If you didn't say it then, you have no right to say it now, right? Because that's really because somebody you care about, somebody who loves you, thinks to themselves this is a bad relationship, and they don't say anything." Ooh.
In one abusive relationship I was in, his mother came to me. I still didn't listen to her. So whilst I agree, I disagree. Because Martine said before, we have to experience it. His mother was like, child, run away. I didn't run away immediately, of course.
Can I ask you, what was the breaking point? Well, I'm going to ask each of you, what was the breaking point? Because if we've learned to override, to kind of summarize where we're at right now, we've learned that we're going to override our gut because we know that that's habitual. That's what we've learned to do. So we override our gut and we say, okay, actually, I think better of this. We've heard friends or family saying, "No, we don't think this is the right thing for you," or that you've isolated yourself away. There must have been a breaking point that said, enough is enough.
It wasn't always the same. Not every relationship that I had that ended had the same breaking point. My worst, I think, you know what, actually, the worst two breakup I had, they both left me at the end of the day. So I was the one suffering. I'm sure they did too. And I was like, oh, call. Oh, call. So I had to endure all that. I tried my best. Oh, I've done things, I adapted, I camouflaged in whatever they needed me to be, and I am left alone. So
in which case, I'm going to rephrase the question. At what point did you know that you were better on your own than in that relationship? Because I'm thinking of someone who's close to me, who's just made that sort of profound, just gone, if I had the opportunity to be with them again, I wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. But I think it depends from the relationship as well. Because if your partner has narcissistic traits, for instance, or
you got everyone here just going,
so we know from that they are very manipulative. And you said, like, your ex-husband had his narrative and all of them believed it. So yeah, if you're in that kind of relationship, which breaks you totally and makes you question everything you know about yourself, that will leave repercussions, and to find yourself again will take a lot of time.
But that narcissist, I mean, I'm throwing a question on the table here, because a narcissistic relationship is completely, that's not a normal breakup.
No.
That is you are being played. You are being,
and ghosted.
Yes.
Because
and punished.
And like you said, you're questioning who you are. I mean, it felt like a bomb dropped in my lap, and because while there were many things that I knew that were red flags, but I was adapting. How I was doing everything I thought you wanted me to do, and now you don't want to stay. Now you don't love me anymore. Well, love doesn't go away. When you love somebody, you're going to do everything you can. So, And then you're pretending that we don't exist anymore. And then his parents pretended I didn't exist anymore. And so it was heartbreaking. And here I have this little girl now, and I'm 56 years old, and I'm a single mom, and she's only 3. You know, it was she got me through. She was the one who got me through, because she doesn't care what was happening. She needed me to be her mom. And so she was the one who really pushed me forward.
Periods are part of the game, but they don't have to throw you off your game. Try new Always Platinum for up to 100% leak protection, faster absorption, dry feel, and it's more cushiony, so you can focus on your game. It's a new period, always.
Wellness looks different for everyone. For some, it's the energy of an early morning workout. For others, it's the morning hustle. Or the joy of a delivery arriving just when they need it. It's the little rituals and big moments that bring balance and health to our lives. Because wellness looks different for everyone. Holland and Barrett.
It's interesting because as soon as you said that you were isolated, I thought to myself, without wanting to ask, I was like, I wonder if there's a narcissistic component to that relationship, because that is the tool of the narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
I moved countries.
Yeah.
I moved countries to be isolated. You know, I mean, this is, and in you're nodding. I mean, obviously your experience as well.
It is one of the textbook tools of a narcissist, actually. And the funny thing is, when you were saying it, I was thinking, once I was in this relationship, it was ups and downs. I wasn't a bad person. I wouldn't say, he's a narcissist. Let's say there were some traits, maybe. I don't throw this around very loosely, because nowadays it's like colloquial, everyone is a
100%.
narcissist. So
Yeah.
I don't really like to use it that much. But so he put a tracker in my car.
Without you knowing?
Of course.
What?
Yeah. And I realized because it showed on my phone. He didn't know it would.
Oh,
So he got the suspicion that I was cheating on him. Then he spoke to my friends. My friends told him, you're stupid, because she doesn't have the time, even if she wants to. And he put it in, he told me it was a split-second decision. He put it in my car. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I got over it, fine. And when I was confronting him about this, like, listen, I know I found the tracker in my car. I'm not stupid. I know it was you, because I left you at your house. And when I got home, my phone gave me a notification that it was something is tracking me from your house to my house. So it couldn't have been anyone else, because I was so blinded by this person. I was thinking, could it be someone is trying to frame him? I was thinking of every possible solution or explanation as to why I have a tracker in my car. The first thing he told me was, because I stayed with the tracker in my car for 2 days, because I didn't know how I was going to confront him. I didn't know how to go about it. The first thing he told me was, did you tell your mom about this? And I told him, what do you mean? He told me, because I know that you and me, we can work things out together, but if you tell your mom, she's going to tell you bad things about me, and she's going to convince you to leave me. I told him, you're lucky I don't go to the police. What do you mean, did I tell my mom? I got home, I was as pale as a ghost. My mom knew instantly. I couldn't hide something like that. Everyone at work already knows. Can you imagine what my mom knows?
I'm just jaw-dropped. I mean, wow.
Yeah. So that's a trait of a narcissist, because he knows that he was so in my head that he could easily manipulate me into kind of, I was leaving him because of this thing, because it's abuse. And he was telling me, he was making me feel guilty for ending the relationship.
You mentioned that and we're all nodding at the table. But my jaw is like, what? A tracker? Are you great? I mean, to me, that's, well, now I'm going to go out and check. No.
I was thinking of checking my phone.
Right. We're all like now really paranoid. But going back to, because everybody at the table is nodding when you're talking about this being gaslit, you know, did you tell your mum? But
Keeping up appearances as well.
Oh my gosh,
Very important.
But you mentioned ghosting and everything. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I came to Malta with my daughter. We were here for 3 weeks. I got back, was talking to him every day, and I got back, and he served me with papers, and it was like, what? It was, you know, but you know, it's also, I think that I've been in fight or flight for probably about 56 years of my life. So not to change the subject, but just about the gut thing and about how we manipulate ourselves right into thinking, oh, I can fix him, or, you know, and so, and that's where this connects from too, because you're almost in a primal survival mode to get this right. We got to get this right. We have to fix it. We have to make it work. So I wasn't listening to myself.
Yes.
Can I get you guys to actually, you guys know you're Gestalt psychotherapist.
I thought therapists had it all together.
Don't tell me you don't. Oh my word.
No, sorry.
Don't
Sorry.
bubble
To burst your
that.
bubble. No,
No, don't
at
burst my
least I
bubble.
don't.
But
What I was thinking,
Maria's right.
sometimes we do certain things to reaffirm what we already know.
Of
So I knew he was going to do that. I knew I was going to feel like that, even if it doesn't serve us. But you know what and I'm going to take the conversation somewhere else now, where I am today. In Gestalt therapy, we talk about self-responsibility.
That's right.
So I'm at a point in my life where, because I saw others not doing this and I needed them to do this, what is my contribution in this? I can't stay blaming my mother, my father, my friends, my childhood, my traumas, my blah, blah. What is my contribution in all of this? So I can't fix people. I have control on what I can do. And that is something I'm working on myself right now. What is my contribution? How can I be better from what I've learned, from all my heartaches and, you know, my failures and...
But how do you have that conversation about what is my contribution when the situation, when the circumstances are, as you described, somebody's putting a tracker in your car, or somebody's being narcissistic, or Maria's come to Malta and come home and gotten
But how
divorce
would
papers.
someone feel comfortable to do that?
Because
Maybe I made him comfortable to do that.
Because it's, you know what, it's also radical acceptance, right? You have to take responsibility that we were part of this, and you're absolutely right. When I look back, and I can say that now, not 3 years ago when it was happening, right? Because you have a little distance now from the actual occurrence of whatever happened. But I let it happen. I have to have responsibility in the relationship as well. You know, I let him, both of us made decisions together. And so as painful as that is to say I had a hand in this, it's a little bit of self-sabotage too sometimes, you know. Do I deserve to be loved? Well, I'll stay in this relationship as long as I can, instead of I'm alone and I'm okay, right? So it is that it's such an important thing, the self-responsibility, or taking responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm a bit careful of how to place this, because I know what you're saying, but sometimes, for example, when I'm in a relationship and things start going south and I start seeing traits which I don't necessarily like so much in a person, for example, I automatically go to, okay, so is it something I did? Is it because I spoke to him in a certain way? Is it because I'm acting in a certain way, for example? And it's always put me in a position where I'm blaming myself for how the person is acting. When that person is doing absolutely nothing to fix how he's acting, how he's thinking, and how he's speaking. So, okay, I will meet you halfway. I'm not perfect, maybe I overreact sometimes, maybe I'm a bit paranoid, maybe I'm a bit jealous sometimes. I don't know. Well, it could be anything. But then can you at least meet me halfway and accept that maybe how you acted made me jealous or made me angry? I'm not saying it's okay, if I get angry, it's because of the other person necessarily, because sometimes there are, external factors. My day was difficult, the kids at work were being difficult, for example. It could be a lot of different things. And I am aware of these things. But then you have to accept as well, or the other person, whoever it is, it could be a family member, that you play a part in how I act as well. So just like I'm trying to be responsible and mindful of myself, my actions, my thoughts, my words, you have to do the same. It can't always be, no, I was right. No, I didn't do anything. It was you. You're overreacting. I might have at some point, yes. Everyone does.
But what I meant with self-responsibility is profounder than that. What I meant is, like, let's say patterns, for instance. If I am attracted to someone who needs fixing, and I know
Yes.
that will drown me mentally, physically, and will trigger these things in me, that's there, I'm saying, I'm talking about contribution. How did I contribute to the situation?
Yes.
Why did I adapt? When I knew that adaptation...
Because boundaries were crossed that we didn't set.
No, but yes. Because on the point of something that each of you said, to bring these together, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about my own experience. And I'm thinking about, you used the word adaptation. I can remember saying to myself, I would never, ever be in a relationship again with someone who hit me, right? That was my boundary. When it happened, did I leave? No, because I adapted. I said, well, I don't know that he meant it, and it was only the once, and it didn't happen again. And then when it did happen again, maybe I didn't, maybe I set this off. I was the one that moved the goalposts. I had one absolute. And that was if I found out he was cheating on me. Now, even when I found out that he was cheating on me, he talked himself out of the scenario and the situation. He said, it's spam. He said, who has an email address like that? Because I'd read it on his BlackBerry whilst he was sleeping back in the day of BlackBerries. And I was convinced. I wasn't convinced. I just didn't have the strength to argue, or because he deleted these emails in front of me, I didn't have the evidence. But then when he then sent me an email, a round robin Christmas email to that email address included in the dialogue of the people that it was being sent to, I had the evidence. I called him and I said, get your things, get out of my house. Because that was the absolute. Because I hadn't been unfaithful and there was nothing I could have done. And it kind of ties all of these themes together. Yes, I adapted. I broke my own boundaries. I said, no, we'll push this one back a little bit. And I didn't listen to myself. And don't we do that? Don't we just let ourselves be convinced? I'm going to come to you, Martine, because as I was saying that, you were like, whoa, yes. I mean, fidelity, is it something that we can forgive? Can we say if somebody is unfaithful?
No. For me, no, definitely. It's up there with any form of abuse. That's not something I can ever move past, because every time I look at you, I'm going to assume you're lying. First of all, I'm going to imagine you with the other person. And I'm also going to assume everything you're telling me is a lie. Because you were able to hide this, or you were able to do this. So how can I trust you? I can't, ever. And for me, I know a lot of people will not agree with me on this, but infidelity takes many forms. And today, with social media, with being online, with messaging people, it's a lot easier to cheat on someone. And I am very, very strict with these things. And I know that most people will not be happy with how I am or how I think about these things.
But isn't it one?
I had to say something in Italian. Cazzi loro.
What's that? What is that?
Oh God, I don't know if I was supposed to say that.
I don't think so.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a podcast.
Bit naughty.
But isn't it true though? We have our boundaries. We set our boundaries, and we say, okay, if you step over that, then that is enough. Is enough. That's where it is.
If I can say something, because before you mentioned the goalpost, and I was actually thinking of it before when you were speaking, but I don't want to butt in. One very, very subtle trait of, let's say, an unhealthy relationship, I'm not going to say a narcissist, an unhealthy relationship is moving the goalpost. So, for example, we started the relationship. You're so pretty, you're so beautiful, you're perfect, you're Miss World, I can't believe you're with me. You know, everything is so nice and perfect. And then, I don't know, you have too much hair, you should remove your extensions. Okay, I had them for Miss World, it's fine. I removed them, it was time anyway. And then, for example, I don't like how you dress. You know, I don't like when you wear tracksuits because it makes you look very unattractive, like unappealing. Or I can't believe you dress like this for work and then you come home and you wear your pajama. Like, you know, you don't want to look nice for me. And every time it's this little pushing back of, you know, what you can do. Or there's always that little more that you are expected to do. So even if, I don't know, we went somewhere, for example, and I made a joke. You know, I'm 26, I'm young, and I'm very happy-go-lucky. My friends call me an affidila, you know? And at first, I like that you're so young. I like that you're this type of person. I like that you're so, you joke all the time and you're so carefree. And then we go somewhere, I make a joke. I didn't enjoy that because it made you look really young and naive and immature. And it came to a point where one person told me, sorry, I was trying to make you into a person that you weren't. And I told him, yes, I know. And because I said, yes, I know, instead of, no, thank you for trying to change me, he went, yes, I made you mature.
Thank you.
When I'm 26, I've done all the things that you've mentioned and more. You know, I have things that most people at 26 don't have. All my friends tell me, how do you manage to do everything? And you are telling me, I made you mature. And my instant answer was, I've never had you before in my life, and I'm at this point. I never needed you for this, and I will not need you for everything else that I will be doing in my life in the future.
Brava. You're getting an amen over here.
Brava. I want to give you a big brava because, you know, you're 26, you're in such a good space in your life and
Thank you.
you have it all ahead of you, you know, and that's just fantastic.
So yes, I think one of the things that I want to put forward is for people, men, women, everyone, to be mindful of this expectation always moving. Why is it always, at first everything is so nice and perfect, but then when we get comfortable, there's always, oh yes, this is good, but you have to change that little thing until at a point, you don't know who you are anymore.
So I think that when we are with a partner, we both come to the table with our triggers, our traumas, and all the good stuff and the not good stuff. If you are emotionally mature and stable, you're not going to move the goalpost because that's who they met you as, because usually you're at your best at that point, right? They're not going to want to move it. That's what I've learned. My thing is, my patterning is, I haven't met emotionally mature partners.
Yeah.
So that's what I work on now. So when if it's a yes and I feel it in my gut, I'm like, oh, you're nice, I can go out with you. I feel that really good. If it's a no or a maybe, it's a no. No more maybes. Because the maybes were the ones that were really, were the ones I was trying to change. Or, you know.
You just mentioned, sorry, go on.
No, I was thinking whilst we were talking, what I look for now is the hard conversations instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly. I'm not scared of hard conversations. I will tell you how it is. what it is for me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I can change, because the beauty of being in a couple, if it's healthy, is to, you know, change in a healthy way, change
Grow.
to grow and you know, like if you're in a healthy relationship, you probably, it will probably be the first time you're allowing someone to love you, for instance. In other relationships, I'm sure I didn't do it, to allow yourself to be authentic.
Yes,
100%.
that's right.
100%. I want to come back to something that you just said about baggage, Maria, because you mentioned baggage. Now, if we've all mentioned, less than positive, healthy relationships, and a part of a breakup is that there's expected baggage and there's unexpected baggage. The expected baggage is there's going to be tears and there's going to be sadness and there's going to be loneliness and there's going to be adaptation and being, we talked about it before we sat down about, maybe being on your own on a Saturday night, that because other people are out with, and when you said that, I think it was you that said that, Martine, and I thought to myself, I can remember the first time that I felt comfortable being on my own on a Saturday night. And I must have poured myself the biggest glass of wine. And I was just like, well done, you. Because that is really tough. Yeah. And I just want to stick on the table that the expected baggage, but the unexpected baggage after the breakup. And I tell you why. Because I only dealt with some baggage from my marriage in the last couple of months. And that was over 25 years ago. I think we walk out of relationships, we expect some stuff, but there's other stuff that could take decades to unprocess. So what do we expect when we leave a relationship? What's the expected and what's the unexpected baggage? And what have you felt? What have you experienced? What took you by surprise?
So for me, because I have a daughter,
right,
healing was very difficult because I would see him. He does. He takes her every weekend, which is wonderful because she gets to see her dad. But the healing in the beginning was very tough. There was no break, and there were other things that happened that I found out about that happened in the marriage, and so it was very difficult. So that was an unexpected kind of thing as far as. And again, losing his parents who stopped talking to me. That was very difficult. We have a child together, that were hard.
It's only you saying that now, because I don't know how it has been for you ladies, but it's, I have the blessing of really not having seen anybody that I broke up with. Even the people that I've broken up with that live on this island, how does that happen that you can go like 10 years without seeing them, but in a country this small? But for my ex-husband, he's in a different country anyway. But having to see them,
that's been tough. It's been a tough, and you get like these because I was very much into podcasts and trying to help myself and so they'll say like you can't see your ex for like a month straight, and I'm like, that is so not good advice for women, especially if we have children with that person, but I will tell you this, as I'm in this point at my life, I am able to be in the same room with him now. So it does get better. But there are a lot of ramifications you don't realize. And you don't realize how connected you are to that person. That was the other thing too, like, you almost get enmeshed in each other, like physically, like there was like physical pain of the separation. And it wasn't just because I was crying. It was that I was grieving not only the 17 years we had together, but all the moments we weren't going to have together as a family. And so that grief of those moments not made.
That future you planned
that
for.
I thought you were the one and we were going to grow old together, and now we're not, And so that's a big fallout. Because I wasn't sure, like I wasn't really understanding, like, what's my pain?
Yeah.
So that was hard.
And I'm glad you used the word grief because it is, isn't it?
Yes. Once I was in another podcast and I said, I think my worst breakup was when none of us fell out of love. Neither of us fell out of love. And that was the hardest breakup for me. Accepting that even loving someone doesn't mean that you're good for each other.
That's right.
And my worst breakup, we broke up. We never stopped contact. We tried again. And this lasted 2.5 years of my life.
That's hard. That's really hard.
And it was mutual. We tried, and that was that what I didn't expect. I didn't expect to remain, for us to keep this going for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. I didn't expect Claudia, who should have it all together, to not wanting to see the light of day.
Yeah.
Who was questioning why I'm alive, what my purpose is in this world. And this is just a few years ago. I mean, it's been a year now, nearly a year. I wasn't expecting that, to see myself literally at the deep end, at the bottom. And I've had shitty things in life happen to me, but this really, that's why I said tested everything. So, grief. I don't think I've ever experienced grief in that way. And grieving someone who's still alive.
Yeah. Yes. So, so that is huge because we associate grief with death. But in a sense, they did. There is a death,
Yes.
but they're still alive, which is so much harder.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can remember, I've said this on the show before, because you do go into a relationship with good faith. You make those plans for the future. You hurt because you know that you can't be with them, and everything that you hoped for has gone. And I remember when I eventually came out of my marriage, my family friend, an older family friend, had lost her husband through death. And it was, and he was like a godfather to me, and it was incredibly sad. But what was really hard, now looking back, is that everybody gave her huge sympathy. Everyone pulled alongside. There were cards, there were flowers, there was hugs, there were tears, there was no shame. And yet nobody said a single thing to me. And I was grieving something I had hoped for, something I thought was going to last forever, something that I believed in. And they were still walking, and they had moved on. And I think that is the one thing in a breakup. I think guys are better at this than us girls. What is that? Why do men move forward before we do?
I'm going to disagree a little bit.
Okay.
In the sense of that, so without giving too much away about what happened, but there was another relationship going on that I found out about.
Right.
So my point, and then I'm sharing that, is because he knew that he was going to leave me, and he also wanted to have somebody there already. I feel like, and I'm not generalizing, so please don't, men need to have a partner. And so I think we tend to be a little bit stronger in a sense. No,
I'm getting a wholehearted
okay.
yes over there
no,
from
because
Martine.
I don't want to generalize because there are plenty of guys, I'm sure, that but this is what I find is that somebody will be married for a long time, and like the woman won't remarry, but the man will, because they can't be alone. And that's, obviously, again, going back to emotional stability, I guess, and maturity. But
But
It
that's
sucks that they move on. And they
Isn't
move on
it?
fast.
Right. I can remember breaking up with someone and who I cared very deeply about, and I had to break up with them because I, like you, I knew that we just were not in. This was not working. This was not right. But I cared deeply for them, and then I saw them with someone else, and that was devastating. But I'm going to come to you, Martine, because you were smiling.
I have a lot to say about everything that you've all just
The floor is yours.
So, building on what you were saying, I was also guilty of this. So I ended a relationship, and a month after, I started another one. But what I feel most women, let's say, go through is that we endure so much and we're able to adapt so much and deal with so much throughout the whole relationship that mentally we check out before we actually break up. So, for example, I remember at a point I was telling my friends, you know what, this relationship taught me how to be single while I was still in the relationship. Because how many times can I have the same argument? Can we go through the same situation, event, discussion, fight, whatever it is, without anything actually changing? So at that point, I was like, okay, you do you, I do me. When I'm fed up, I'm hoping that this change will instigate some form of remorse and maybe change from your end. I didn't actually say this, but in my brain, this is how I was thinking about it. If nothing changes, you have a time frame. If nothing changes, I will leave. I left because of other things, because then it turned abusive. Because of it, not only did he not change, he got worse. But now I think, looking back, probably there was someone else. So men usually maybe decide to break up instantly, kind of. It's a bit of a more of a rush decision. But then they get into a relationship faster, or they find someone else faster, because they need that type of nurturing element in their life. And I feel that a certain type of men, not all of them, how should I say, needed to boost their ego. Because they can't go through life not having someone like their mommy. Yes, I'll be proset, you're amazing, everything that I look up to you. Some men, not all, need people to look up to them, because otherwise what they're doing is not worth doing. Why am I doing all of this if no one is looking up to me, if no one is telling me, wow, well done, proset, you know? But at the same time, they can't be that person for themselves, even though they say that they are. And yes, for me, I think one of the hardest parts, like I said, so I would be in a state where I'm single, I'm fine with it, because in my head, I've been single for a while. But first of all, we were talking about baggage before. I rarely came out of a relationship fearing a specific thing. But I remember once I had this, so it got a bit physical, and I walked away instantly on the day. I packed everything up, I left. And at first I was fine. So for a week I was fine. After 5-7 days, something like that, I started having nightmares. Not about the incident. So it wasn't about, the actual physical abuse. It was, I would wake up sweating and panicking, and then I couldn't fall back asleep, because I used to dream that I'm back with the person and he's fine. Everything is normal, business as usual. And I'm panicking because I can see my dog is there. I don't want to be here. And I had this feeling of, I don't want to be here. How am I back here? My mom is going to kill me. I don't want to be here. I feel unsafe. This is not the place where I want to be. This is not the person I want to be with. I'm scared for myself. I'm scared for my dog. I'm scared for everything that might happen. And it was just this feeling of, how am I going to break up this relationship again without, all the repercussions? And I had this for quite a while. Then obviously, thankfully, it resolved itself, and I went to therapy a bit and this and that. But then you come to a point where for me, for example, one of the hardest things to deal with was meeting people, friends of his, friends of mine, friends of both of us, people who know him, know his family, whatever. And you start hearing different versions of each situation he spoke to you about. And you come to a point where you're listening to people talk about this person that you thought you knew so well because he was so honest. He told me every little thing, good, bad, disastrous, every single thing he told you about, as far as you know. But now you're hearing people's version of what he told them, the different version that he told them. And this is not the same person. What do you mean? No, this breakup didn't happen like this. He told me it happened like this. And then his best friend of 20 years is telling me, no, not even close. What are you saying?
God.
And then you come to a point where you're both so confused.
I don't even know what the truth is.
And people are telling you, listen, I don't know. I might be lying. If he lied to me, I'm lying to you. I don't know. And I tell him, I don't know. So then you have to deal with the fact that this person that you thought you knew so well for years is actually someone completely different. So was anything actually real? Where does the lying end? At which point I told one of my friends, because they were telling me, but which version do you believe? I told them, you know what? I believe if I ask him, even he doesn't know, because there's so many lies. Even he's confused at this point for sure.
But yeah, I'm fairly sure that we can all relate to that. I'm fairly sure that there's a lot of people listening or watching this show who can relate to that. And I want to just make the point that that's not unique to just men.
No,
women
for
can do
sure
this
not.
as well.
Yes, for
women
sure.
can also create a web of stories the way you just can't decipher the truth. But for the sake of this show, we're talking about the partners that we've had experiences with that brought us to a breakup point.
Welcome to Maison Perrier. Discover Maison Perrier Chic and enjoy our new non-alcoholic cocktail range. Maison Perrier. Enjoy our new sophisticated mocktails.
There's the designer one, color, craftsmanship, handles, hubby cooking. Wow. Good thing we came to Satariano. We didn't just dream it, we got it. Satariano, quality kitchens at prices you'll love.
Are you still running your business using spreadsheets, multiple tools, and your memory? There's a better way, and that's Guru Edge. Automate the boring shit. The follow-up emails, invoices, debt collection, the admin that eats up your day, and let's face it, nobody actually enjoys doing it. Track your leads, pipelines, and team performance in one central place, while your automations are already following up, chasing payments, and keeping things moving without you. More clarity, more control, that's Guru Edge.
I want to move forward towards how we heal, because you've just described trusting yourself. We talked about trusting our gut and being able to trust somebody else. And obviously, Marie, you discovered afterwards that there was another life. Yeah. So you also, have you walked out of relationships? I know I have, where you're just like, I'm not even sure I could trust myself because how did I not see that? How did I blind myself to that? How did I not know that this was past the expiration date, that I should have left? But how do we heal? How do we heal? Because we're all sitting at the table here today with a different outlook. For the very, very fact that we're able to talk about it, which is what you said right at the very beginning, we're able to talk about it. So there has to have been some healing. How do we heal from the known baggage and the unknown baggage? How do we get to the point where we can start being whole again?
I don't think I blame myself anymore and ask myself, why didn't I see it? Or why didn't I trust my gut? Or why? I try to understand how I ended up in this situation, but gently. I try to be as gentle with myself as possible. And through that, be real with myself. And, sit with it, which is the hardest
Well,
thing
how
to
does
do.
that look like? I hear
Sit-
people say this a lot. I'm
sit
going to
with
sit
it.
with it. What does that mean?
I experience it. Like, for instance, before, I think it was you, Martine, you mentioned going into another relationship immediately, or numbing myself with, I don't know, drinks or
Work or
Done that a lot.
no, literally just, accepting that in 24 hours I can be happy, I can be sad, I can be angry, I can be...
you allow yourself to go through the experience. So right now I'm feeling really angry, right now I'm feeling really upset, I'm feeling like I'm worth nothing, for example. And you let yourself go through all of those emotions that you need to go through without judging yourself, because that's one of the things that we really struggle with, I think. We judge ourselves all the time. I should have known better. I should have seen it coming. For example, one of the things I struggle with a lot is, if something happens to the girl after me, is it my fault for not speaking up? How can I deal with it? Because maybe I got through it quite unscathed, let's say. I was lucky. But what would happen? What might happen to the girl after me if no one speaks up? If the girl before me didn't speak up, and the girl before that maybe, or I don't know how many people there were, maybe the same thing wouldn't have happened to me. It's like, if I speak up and the next one doesn't care, doesn't believe me, that's on her. I've done my job. But then what if I speak up and no one believes me, or it turns me into the bad person, or something bad happens to me because I don't know what this person is capable of doing, for example? You know? Is it worth the hassle? Am I going to cause myself more pain and trouble if I speak up? If I do something about it? But I judge myself.
What do you think? Because this is a really interesting point, because you just rightly said, if she doesn't listen, she doesn't listen. We know, because we've said, there's a good chance that we didn't listen.
Exactly.
But we planted that seed. Is it our responsibility as sisterhood, looking out for other women? Or would we take it?
I think if there was abuse, like physical abuse, or there was something that happened to you, that I might. On the other hand, it's her journey. It's her.
For sure.
So, but I understand, if something happens to her, then you would feel bad about it. It's. There's not a right answer.
No.
I don't know.
It's a dilemma.
I don't know.
It is a dilemma, huh?
But
That is
what
a
you're
real-
doing good for yourself is that you're here and you're talking about it. So if this person will watch this show, she might get the hint.
That's
but
right.
but that's not your responsibility, I guess. I mean,
At the
I
end
don't know
of
if
the day,
there's a
that's right,
person,
yes.
but maybe there would be at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Healing, yeah. Still going on. And I think it's going to be a lifetime of healing. But I know that therapy helped me tremendously. Working through my feelings, letting myself feel. I mean, my daughter would leave on a Friday night, and I would go, the minute she would leave, I would go into my bed and pull the covers over my head till Sunday, till she came home. For the first 2 years at least. And I would just, although it seemed like it was depression, it was more of compression. I needed to just be in my bed and cocoon myself. And like I said, I was in fight or flight for all those years, and I was tired. I needed to just rest. And, you listen to your body. So I just feels, that was something that helped me, that I just...
Was that hard to listen to your body?
It's still hard.
We're not good at that, are we?
It's still hard. But as I'm listening to my intuition more, I'm starting to listen to my body more and saying, yes.
unless your body breaks down.
That's
In
right.
my case, my body didn't. I wasn't even in control of that. It let me know that I was physically sick.
That's right.
So there are cases where, in my case, there was a certain breakup that literally, as I said, tested me physically. I didn't want to live. Like, what the hell am I doing here? And in my case, I have to go and sing, I have to go and host a show, and inside I am dead.
Okay, so let me ask you, Did that help? Which would have been better for you, to be able to go home and pull up the covers, or to make you go out and perform and to smile?
I did both.
Yeah, but
Because the minute I was at home again, I pulled the covers up and I didn't want to see the light of day. But yeah, I mean, in my case, music, of course, helps. But yeah, I mean, it's very subjective, I think, how one prefers to heal, whether it's with being busy or sometimes it was really hard though, because to show up when you really don't want to, and accepting that I don't want to show up right now, and you have no choice. I mean, sometimes it's hard. That is my story. I had to. And
I want to go back to something you said right at the very beginning, and it was about, and it's sort of now it's clicked and now it's dropped, because I was thinking to myself, what was the most healing thing? You're talking about the covers, and you're talking about the dealing and being able to listen to your body and to be able to do that. And I remember I read this book, and I've mentioned it on the show before. It's by Robin Norwood, and it's called Women Who Love Too Much. And I didn't even have to finish the book. It just dropped, and it told me everything that I had been repeating, the behavior that I'd been repeating, the what I was looking for, how I was trying to fix myself through my relationships, how I was trying to fix everything that had gone before in my relationships. I then could hold myself accountable and say, actually, I did have a part to play in this, because I hadn't invested in fixing me. And actually, and it's a series, the first 2/3 of the book is just a series of relationships you read, and you're like, how could this woman put up with this? I mean, this is awful. And then you realize that's you. Because it's kind of like if someone came to you and told you your story in their lives, you'd turn around and you'd go, are you serious? No way. No way. Leave him or move on or deal with this breakup. But when we see it in ourselves, we don't pull ourselves up. And just, that whole idea of being accountable and realizing my part was not to fix me and not to do that work. And I think that comes back to what you said right at the very beginning, which is we have to be accountable. We have to be happy and single. We have to enjoy our lives by ourselves before we can invite somebody else into it, right?
Yes. When you're going through it, it's horrible. I mean, I was on the floor many days and I was just like, take me. But it was the best thing that happened to me, because I have learned so much about myself, and I will never be in that space again. I will never let anybody sit at the table that I don't invite, ever. I'll be by myself. It's fine. It's okay. And I don't mean that in like a, if I don't meet somebody, I'm filling my cup. I'm being the person I want to be. And if somebody, wants to be with me, that's fine. But
that's the truth, isn't it? Yeah, you got us all in tears.
I remember once, now I'm remembering because of what you're saying. Once I was arguing with one of my exes, and he was kind of, puffing his chest out because you need me and this and that. And I looked at him and I told him, no, sorry. I told him, you've got this all twisted. You're in my life because I want you to be in my life, because I don't need you. I will never need you. I want you. So don't push me to the point where I realize that I don't want you. I already don't need you. I know that. So don't bring me to the point where I say, I don't want you. So you're not serving anything of substance in my life. So, get out of my life. And it really shut him up. But now thinking about it, it wasn't true. I didn't believe it was true, but I didn't actually believe it. I said it because I wanted to sound big and, strong and independent woman, which I am. But at that time, if I actually believed wholeheartedly that I didn't need someone, not him necessarily, someone in my life, and if I really respected myself and loved myself as much as I thought that I did, I wouldn't have stayed for half, if not more, of the things that I stayed for. So now, for me, healing looks like, like we're saying, I sit with it. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? What was what shouldn't I have stayed for? What are my patterns? Why do I enjoy these patterns? Because we know what our patterns are. We're not stupid. Most of us would know. But why are these patterns so comfortable for me? Where does it come from? How can I bring myself to a point where it's okay for me to be uncomfortable enough to break the patterns? Because it's not easy. It's something that I've known for all my life, for example. And you have to come to a point where you know yourself so much and you know your worth so much and you know that by yourself you're going to be fine, that the minute that something does not serve you, not a tiny thing, obviously, because there will be arguments, there will be everything in a relationship, nothing is perfect. But the minute that you see that something is so disrespectful that you would say, I would never do this to myself, I would never do this to someone else, you leave. And there's no, but because for me now, I know that the second there is an if or a but, or I have to rationalize anything that someone is doing to me, I should leave. Because that is not okay.
But isn't this the point, is that we have a responsibility to go into, coming back to what you were saying, Claudia, about us having our own responsibility, and what you've just said is that we have a responsibility to go into a relationship whole and happy.
That's right. Yes.
Because nobody else can make us happy if we can't make ourselves happy. How can somebody else who has their own,
That's right.
and I'm not talking about, we're not talking about somebody who has a personality disorder or somebody who, we're talking about a healthy person. How can they make us happy if we can't make us happy? Because that responsibility is far beyond anything that we can expect another human being to be able to do. Like you were saying, we have to be whole. We have to get ourselves to a point where we're entering into a relationship in the best possible way, which
I think in the best possible way.
In the best
Not
possible
whole,
way.
Because whole, I don't know if I will ever be whole. But yes, that is a huge responsibility to put on others.
That's right.
And it's not fair. Because I don't know if I would be, I'm capable of holding that responsibility. What I believe is that two people can come with the right intentions, can come together, both having baggages and being, having, as I said before, having the difficult conversations, being authentic and vulnerable, and of being okay with that. And then through that, we help each other out. I mean, in the ideal world. And we make each other whole together. I think that would be what I believe in.
Well, this really nicely leads me on to a question I promised I'd ask at the very beginning, which is, if you could tell your younger self, if you could go to your younger self and give them a word of advice, what would it be? And the reason I mention that is because for me, and I'm going to go first, is I'm not perfect. I mean, trust me. My husband will tell you I'm not perfect. But I would say find someone who loves you as much on your worst day as they do on your best day, unconditionally. And I know I found it in my husband. And I would suggest to anyone, don't settle for anything less. If you could go and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
You know that I'm lovable. I'm lovable and I'm a good woman. And just be who you are. Don't let anybody else tell you who you are.
I've thought of this so many times. and I don't know how to answer right now. Now that you actually asked the question, what I would tell my younger self, I think I would just hug little Claudia, and tell her you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's gonna be hard, but you'll be fine.
It's not an easy question. Like she said, people have asked this to me so many times and I never know what to say. But I think one of the things I would say would be that other people are not my responsibility. You know, I'm not responsible for how you act, how you think, if you're going to change. I'm responsible for myself, for how I make myself feel. I can't have someone tell me, you bring out the anger in me. No, you're just an angry person. And because I felt responsible for how everyone else feels my whole life. And that led me to accept a lot of things. It led me to change who I am to accommodate other people. And it never led to anything good. So I just be yourself, be responsible for you, make sure you don't hurt anyone else intentionally, and just trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Ladies, is there life after a breakup, no matter how painful?
I think we are.
Yes. I think we're a testament to say, yes, absolutely. And it's good. And it's hopeful.
It's just beautiful to be here and actually.
Yeah. And I've never met anybody here before. So I think that's the beauty of coming together and sharing, our stories, and we're all different. We all, we have all our different experiences. But again, hopefully somebody watching this will be like, oh, I can relate, So thank you for that.
I'm going to let that be the last word. I think we need some tissues here.